Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Gridiron Gurus. My name is Luke, and joining with me, as always, is
Ryan Green,
and today we're doing our North, like
North, yes,
AFC North,
and
and
NFC, yes,
free agency stuff. Free agency opens in 2 weeks,
yes,
which is kind of crazy.
yeah,
But so we got NFC and AFC. I've got the NFC. He's got the AFC. We're gonna start with the AFC. So we got the
yes,
Ravens. We kind of did you see what did you do? Team needs, how
hmm
much cap space they have, and who they got, and like who are they losing?
yes.
Okay,
So
so go ahead.
basically, right now, the cap came out as like
It
279.
went up like 25 million.
Yeah, it went by over 25 million. I know there was that range from there up to like it was like 275 to like 280, and then ended up going closer to 279. But the Ravens have close to about 13 million right now. Now, obviously, they can restructure some deals, push it in the future. But as of right now, that's what it is. Um, they have some people that they can re-sign. It's like Ronnie Stanley, Patrick McCarry's leaving. Like some of the people in their offensive line, as well as key pieces, like key young pieces that I think they're going to be able to that they will be able to re-sign if they restructure Lamar Jackson and Mabedike. That makes it up to about 33.3 million if they restructure Lamar and Mabedike. Mabedike,
Matabike.
Matabike, sorry about that. His only 6 million. Lamar is significant, and then his would be like a 72 mil cap hit in 2026, which is still big, but it'll still be worth it. Being able to re-sign Patrick Card, Ardarius Washington, who I really like, and also Malik Harrison. That's a really good linebacker for them to have, and hopefully be able to re-sign Ronnie Stanley. If they're able to re-sign Ronnie Stanley, then I think they'll be okay enough going into the draft of finding the best available offensive line depth for them because I do like this offensive line class. If not, then that is going to be their major priority for round one is finding a replacement for Ronnie Stanley.
He's
So
also, I don't know if he's a. I mean, he's a priority, but also I don't know because he hasn't been healthy the last. Of course, he
exactly,
chooses his free agency year to be fully healthy, but he hasn't kind of been the same player the last couple of years, and also he's been so hurt. I don't know if the Ravens are going to be a team that like shells out a big
Mhm.
like. Obviously, you can't let him walk, but I feel like a trade he might get like tag and trade or
Yeah,
and like you can let him walk. I guess it's just you have to go in obviously with the need of left tackle,
yes,
but I don't know if signing him to like a 4 year deal at like $18 million a clip is
yeah, because
smart,
like say at the same time, like
and it
you
might get more
found
from another
you
team
you you
too.
you found Roger Rosengarten in the wouldn't have drafted
It's also
third,
easy to block for Lamar.
especially in that scheme too.
Yeah,
Tom Munkin has a great scheme. So like I said, in my opinion, I don't think that they will. I think that they'll let him walk because I have Ronnie Stanley being signed to somewhere else at a big contract. So their main things they have to draft a left tackle, but they can still make some. They can still make some moves. Obviously, I think bringing in a veteran like a Stephon Gilmore, someone who's going to be like, yes, he's still way up there at age like 30. He's going to be like 34,
but
35.
he's like the cornerback three.
Exactly. He's gonna be quarterback three. You got Nate Wiggins, who's coming into his own. Marlon Humphrey's as good as
Was
it
an all pro.
was all pro. I mean, like he's as good as he has been. And then you're hoping that TJ Tampa takes the next couple of steps. So at that same time, bringing Stephon Gilmore, you get to bring TJ Tampa on a little bit more. And also someone like Matt Collins. I think Matt Collins is somebody like a bigger body wide receiver that they're probably going to lose Nelson Aguilar, so they need more wide receiver help. I think they're good with their top two options with Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, but I want a bigger body wide receiver than just like they have two amazing tight ends, but I want a bigger wide receiver for a little bit cheap with Matt Collins, who came up really well for them against
Yeah,
the Bills against the Ravens. Um, but they can't make that many moves because I think they're really focusing on just trying to um, fill out their roster through the draft, try to get some good rookie contracts, and then try to run it back because they have a
yeah.
really talented team.
And mostly of their acquisitions are going to be through the draft, just hitting on players, player development. And obviously, they are still a really good team who played a lot better down the stretch of last year. And it's just, you're going to always lose players, but they draft pretty well,
Yeah.
and they prepare pretty well. And we'll see what goes on with them. I now have the Lions, who are one of the most interesting teams because they
Mhm.
have a lot of cap. So they have $51.5 million in cap. which is, I mean, it's definitely helped out that jump so much. But they have some free agents, but they don't have a lot of big free agents. They have Kevin Zeitler, who's starting guard, but he's older. You got Tim Patrick, who was really good for them last year, and Carlton Davis are kind of the three guys that were notable free agents for them. I think they'll bring back Tim Patrick. I think they'll bring back Carlton Davis. I don't think they can afford to lose either one of them. Maybe they let Carlton Davis or not Carlton Davis, Kevin Zeitler walk.
No.
But and as their needs, I put defensive back just as a whole, just depth there,
Okay.
I guess. And like Terran Arnold, I guess if you resign, I mean, you've got Brian Branch at the slot. You've got Kirby Joseph was a stud last year. Carlton Davis is solid. I mean, you drafted Terran Arnold last year.
You also
drafted Rakestraw. So it's like, I know Arnold and Rakestraw didn't play great, so maybe bring in just a vet there or just depth behind them. Just so many injuries. I put edge or just general defensive line depth, but mainly an edge rusher because they need an edge 2 and truly 3, honestly, to play across from Aiden Hutchinson. And like I like their defensive tackles, and they have solid depth there. Just last year got a little unfortunate with everyone getting hurt on that defensive line. So like I put general defensive line depth, but like not really in the interior because they have like 2 to 3 good guys there. It's just they all got hurt, which doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
And then the other one I put was left interior offensive line or left offensive line because you got Taylor Deckard's older. He's like 32. Kevin Zeitler's a free agent. Frank Ragnow he's only 29, but he's kind of been an Iron Man, and he's played through a lot of injuries. I've seen stuff that he's flirted with retirement a little bit because of all those injuries. So it's just, I think the guard spots are pretty weak for this offensive line. Obviously, Penei Sewell's a stud, and Ragnow's really good, and Decker's good. But I think they could fill out that left side a little bit with some, in case Decker gets hurt, in case Ragnow gets hurt, and just filling up the guard spots. So the people I had them mainly targeting were Josh Sweat or Derek Barnett for the edges. I don't think Josh Sweat's going to end up leaving Philly, but
you think they'll be able to re-sign him?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
They always find a way.
Maybe.
But I have Josh Sweat because I think he'd be a perfect. I mean, he's not a stud against the run or anything, but he's that kind of pass rusher that they need because the rest of the defensive line is good against the run, especially that interior.
I mean, Lee McNeil and DJ Reed
they have solid linebackers. Aiden Hutchinson's stud against the run when he's healthy. So just kind of getting a guy that can, I mean, we saw in the Super Bowl, just take over a game, especially if he'd be like the third best pass rusher on that line. I mean, now we're cooking with gas there. And Derek Barnett, you could bring in 2, even if you bring in Josh Sweat, because Derek Barnett, as a Texans fan, I really like him, and he was a great third defensive end for us last year. He got a lot of play time. He's good against the run. He's solid as a pass rusher. He's a very good depth defensive end that they could get. And for corner or defensive back, I put Dante Jackson and DJ Reed as guys that like are used to kind of being secondary defensive backs. Like Dante Jackson, I wouldn't love to start, but I think he's a quality backup cornerback who's got some ball skills that maybe could fill in as that like third cornerback. DJ Reed's got position versatility. I mean, this team is good and they don't have a lot of holes because they're good. And last year, most of their holes were just because they got so hurt.
Yeah.
And like offense, I mean, not really addressing any of the skill positions. I mean, you're definitely actually not positioned any of the skill positions. Jameson Williams is stud. Amon Ross is stud. Laporta had a down year, but he's still really good. Obviously, the running backs is the best duo maybe we've ever seen. And you're not replacing Goff. And you've got like good pieces on the offensive line. But and then for that offensive line that I just mentioned, I put James Daniel or Austin Corbett. Corbett has a little position versatility where he can slide, center, guard. James Daniels is a guy who's stud against the run, so kind of what they want to do. And I don't think he'll be insanely expensive, mainly because he did get hurt the back half of last season, but he's having a really good year for the Steelers. And I don't think the Steelers are going to re-sign him. But those are kind of the guys that I put. And just kind of position versatile guys that can play. Like I think Daniels has played both guard spots. Corbett, obviously, for y'all has played center and guard. So just kind of guys that can move around the offensive line because they'll probably end up having injuries because they're the Lions. So.
Yeah, no, I like them too. I would say I think there's a possibility that could also because they have not been one to really go like out and accrue talent. Like outside of last year, they did bring in DJ Reader, but usually they're not going to do like huge free agent spending, and especially because like Aiden Hutchins is coming up, like his contract is going to come up. Jameson Williams' contract is going to start coming up as
the
far
capital
as like
have gone up.
The capital go even more, but that's why I'm wondering exactly how much they're going to like continue to like try to invest instead of just keeping all the homegrown talent because you also have Kirby Joseph who's also going to get paid. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the Lions are a very dangerous team. I'm interested to see what they're going to do in the draft as well because they've been knocking it out of the park the last 3 or so years.
Yeah,
as far as
it's been and they stick to their needs. And then you were up next with
the Steelers. Yeah, the Steelers have 60.
Such an interesting team.
I'm so conflicted. Last year, I had the bold prediction where I was like, I saw the Steelers had a lot of money, and I was like, well, this whole Dak situation, I was like, technically he could go to the Steelers, but that didn't end up happening. But in this case, Steelers have $60 million to work with. They don't have a quarterback on the roster outside of like I can't remember who the third quarterback is, but they haven't re-signed Justin Fields. They haven't re-signed Russell Wilson just yet. I think there's possibility that they re-sign Justin Fields, but I think they're also going to go after someone like a Sam Darnold. I'll go into it a little bit right now. They probably let some people walk. They will let James Daniels walk. They drafted South Dakota State guard Mason McCormick.
Yeah.
Love Mason McCormick. I think they're going to let Najee Harris walk because in this draft you could get basically the same exact production that you got from Najee Harris. Probably let Van Jefferson walk, let Mike Williams walk, Dan Moore, Preston Smith, and also Dante Jackson. I think some of these positions you'll be able to address in the draft. I like Omar Khan. I think he's had pretty good drafts, even though some people haven't really liked his drafts. I liked his draft last year.
He's had 2 good drafts in a row where he's just gotten hits. I mean, he's having to kind of rebuild this roster that's pretty old.
Exactly, and so like that's where I'm giving him some leeway.
Also, Mike Tomlin hasn't exactly hired great coordinators in the last decade.
One of the ones that I'm interested in is he's always been hit or miss, but when he hits, like he's a very valuable wide receiver. That's an MVS. So you let Van Jefferson go, bring in MVS for 1 year.
That's what they tried to draft. What's his face to be from Michigan? I know, but that Michigan wide receiver, they drafted in the 3rd round. They tried to draft him to be that. He got no playing time. No. Apparently, it wasn't good. Like, and there was a bunch of drama with him too. So.
And Roman Wilson. Yeah. And that's the reason why I was like, I don't know if they're still going to go in that direction, but if not, they can still bring in MVS to be that deep threat for a different quarterback like Sam Darnold, because someone who's showed out last year, obviously a lot more weapons than he's going to have in the Steelers. But in an offense that's going to be predicated on running the ball. So you got Jalen Warren, whoever your draft, you have a really young but also talented offensive line. I believe in the people that they've drafted: Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and then also Broderick Jones. And
Broderick Jones has been bad though.
He has been bad, but I think that he still has potential.
Yeah.
And then
he drafted the Washington tackle.
And he drafted Fatano.
Yeah.
Troy Fatano. So like. I think your offensive line is young, it's developing. If you're able to, hit in the draft, I think you're good. But Sam Darnold, it's going to be a big contract. That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about is who is going to throw Sam Darnold the money, because 1, they have it, and 2, they have that desperate need of quarterback, because this is not a really good quarterback draft class. And a lot of people are kind of be put, not Tomlin necessarily, but are putting like they don't want to put their name to a rookie quarterback, and all of a sudden, like, crap, I messed up this kid because I got fired. Another one, too, that kind of like was Asante Samuel. There's a possibility he gets re-signed to the Chargers, but him replacing Dante Jackson, having him and also Joey Porter Jr., I think that's a pretty good tandem, pretty young tandem. Asante Samuel, last year, he didn't have the best year, but in years past, he's had pretty good years. So I'm going to go with,
as like a number 2 corner.
As a number 2 corner. I feel like that fits his role a lot better. So, like I said, you would still have a lot more money to be able to eventually re-sign TJ Watt next year that carry over that cap. So, not too many moves, but still re-signing Nate Herbig, Justin Fields, and then DeMonte Casey. So
yeah, and just hit on your draft picks.
Exactly.
So then I have the Vikings, who are one of the more fun teams to watch this offseason. Obviously, I'll get to their key free agents first because they've got probably the most coveted free agent out of anybody in this cycle by a lot of teams. Will be Sam Darnold, for better or for worse, honestly. But he's like the kind of good quarterback that was like actually good last year, that you can get hitting free agency, that they actually might let him walk too because they have JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think it could be a tag and trade situation, if a team wants to do that. But they got Sam Darnold's free agent. Cam Akers was good for them the back half of the year, so I put him. Byron Murphy was a starting quarterback for the cornerback for them last year. He was good. Cam Robinson they traded for midseason to fill in, and Dalton Reisner was a starting guard for them. They have $63 million in cap, which is quite a bit. And I put their needs as interior offensive line, defensive back, and defensive tackle. Obviously, they lost, the ACL tear.
Which one?
Their left tackle.
Oh, you're talking about D. Starts the last name starts with a D. Oh, wow.
Me and you were both blanking.
Christian Darrisaw. There we go.
They lost him, but he'll probably be back next season. He got hurt like week 6 or 7. So
yeah, it was that when they lost.
And he's a stud. They have good tackles. The interior is pretty bad though. So for the interior, I put like Drew Dahlman, Ryan Kelly, Brandon Scherf. So I'm just like, I think a center would be huge for this team. That's why I put Drew Dahlman.
I like Drew Dahlman. If he doesn't get re-signed by the Falcons, that's a really good pick.
Because I think just a center would make their guards' life so much better. And I think this is a solid guard draft if like you convert guys. So I think you could be looking at them maybe drafting a guard round 1 and signing a center and even getting a Brandon Scherf, who hasn't been good in a minute, but or hasn't been great in a minute, but he's still okay. He's still solid as like a vet guard just to like be better than whatever they had last year. Obviously also I think they're going to re-sign Byron Murphy. I think they're going to re-sign Cam Akers. I can't attest to the other two. I think Cam Robinson's going to leave just because he won't start and they're not going to kick him into guard.
No.
Don't know what to do with Darnold, so I'm not even going to predict that. And I put their other need at defensive back. So
do they re-sign Aaron Jones or what do you think?
Oh, I didn't put Aaron Jones. I completely blanked. Yeah. Aaron Jones is a free agent too. I think he'll get re-signed. Yeah. That's why I didn't put running back. I forgot Aaron Jones is a 1-year deal.
They like their running back room.
Yeah. So it's like defensive back I put is Justin Reed, Trevarius Ward, and Asante Samuel.
I like Trevarius Ward.
They need just kind of overall defensive back. Harrison Smith hasn't retired yet, but probably will. Even with Byron Murphy, if they get him back, they still have a needed corner. They've been really unfortunate with drafting cornerbacks lately through unforeseen circumstances and also just busts. But I think getting a Trevarius Ward, who is a good cornerback, just had bad stuff happen. We mentioned this last week, so I don't have to go through all that again. Justin Reed's a versatile safety. Chiefs will somehow keep him because they're going to keep everybody. But
I don't know. Them tagging Trey Smith makes me think there's going to be somebody that they can't keep.
Yeah, but either way, I think Trevarius Ward, Justin Reed, or Asante Samuel would be a good get for them just to fill out that cornerback room, and they can still address secondary in the draft, even if they get just one of those corners.
Yeah.
And then defensive tackle, not a great defensive tackle class, or not free agency class.
There's like 2 guys.
I put Javon Hargrave, who wasn't great for the Niners last year, but he was such a good player like 2 years ago. And I think he still has juice, and I like him. And then I put Jaron Reed, who I don't think they're going to like spend huge money in defensive tackle because they've already invested so much in that defensive line, because they're paying the two edge rushers, they signed Jonathan Grenard. So I don't see them paying like huge money for like a defensive tackle there. But Javon Hargrave and Jaron Reed are both vets that are solid players. Jaron Reed was actually pretty good last year. And he's actually gotten better as a pass rusher as he's kind of progressed as a player. And there's not room for him in Seattle. So I think they could get either one of those players to kind of be that interior presence, because they don't need like a crazy amount of production from the defensive tackle spots. They need them to kind of stop the run and get some like just push the pocket, because their edge rushers are so good. Yeah. I mean, they drafted I'm literally
Dallas Turner.
Dude, and my names today are terrible. Dallas Turner. I'm an Alabama fan.
Yes.
I didn't get that one.
I think,
Dallas Turner.
Did you have him as your number one?
Yeah. I had Jared Versa too, though. Yeah. Dallas Turner, and then they obviously got Andrew Van Ginkel and
oh goodness.
Oh my gosh. And the Houston defensive end, who I also can't remember his name.
Jonathan.
Dude, my name is working on everything today, dude. Don't even worry. It's really bad. So their edges are good. Just getting some solid defensive tackles in there.
Yeah.
They have a lot of money. They need to re-sign their guys and figure out what to do with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I agree. I think that their best foot forward is just hoping and praying that if they let Sam Darnold walk, that it doesn't come back to bite them. Because like they're in a good window right now. I think they have a good head coach. Yes, obviously first round exits and 2 great seasons that they had.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm both of us were very high on their quarterback, but
I believe in the head coach.
I believe in the head coach.
And I believe in the situation.
Exactly. Because like we didn't think that Sam Darnold would be doing.
And I think there's a chance they can draft a running back day 2 and kind of then just lean on the run game with JJ McCarthy. And if they sign some offensive line pieces, kind of be like, I don't know.
I kind of like also like TJ Sanders to them as far as like interior pressure.
Really
that'd be good too.
Now you're up with the Bengals.
Yes, the Bengals. I didn't have them do too much in free agency because I have them mainly focusing on re-signing all their players. I think they have the cap space to be able to do so. It's just focusing on, okay, if we re-sign these players, how are we able to really build out this roster? Because T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Trey Henderson are going to take up a whole lot of that cap. You have $61.5 million in cap right now. So you're able to spend, but it's also going to be you're going to have to let Trent Brown walk, which is fine. He drafted Amarius Mims. Hopefully he continues to develop. He had some good games, had some really bad games as well. You let Cody Ford go. You're probably going to you might be able to re-sign Mike Hilton, but he might want to go and have his services as a nickel, to the highest bidder. And then you're probably going to let go of Von Bell. He didn't have the best year. No. So what I said is that they could restructure Joe Burrow to even increase more cap so they could be able to afford. They just tagged T. Higgins. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to be the same situation with Trey Smith where it feels like going all in this year and then we'll just see what happens, or if they're going to tag and then eventually try to sign T. Higgins to a long-term contract.
I think Trey Smith gets traded.
Yeah. So. And then I said bring back B.J. Hill. I said they could potentially either in a good tight end draft class, they could draft tight end or bring back Mike Gesicki. He had a pretty good year with them. And then bring back Jamar and then sign an extension to Jamar Chase and Trey Henderson because Jamar Chase is going to be the highest paid non-quarterback. $40 million. He's literally going to be like that's the reason why I was saying like they're not going to do that much in free agency, but I'm trying to find like players that I think can be on cheaper contracts that can actually do well. Like Adoree Jackson he had a good year in a bad Giants team. So putting him there with Trey Henderson, with the Bengals, hopefully with their first pick, getting an edge rusher to complement Trey Henderson. Hopefully your young defense tackles improve with B.J. Hill being a good run stopper. Also getting someone like Bobby Brown the third from the Rams. If he doesn't re-sign with the Rams, he was a good run stuffer. Like he doesn't give you that much as far as a pass rusher, but you need to have something to stop the run. And
yes,
I was
in this division.
Yeah, I was really hopeful. I was like, well, it's young defense tackles, but it still didn't work out, and it did. It was absolutely abhorrent. And then also I said that Justin Strnad is a linebacker from the Denver Broncos. He might not get re-signed. I really liked him as being just somebody that you could have as like a backup because like I'm a little bit concerned with Wilson and Pratt in case they get hurt. I don't feel very confident in your linebacker depth. So going that in free agency, focusing more on the draft on people who can be immediate impact, I feel like that's going to be your play as far as like drafting ability. So that's what I feel like with the Bengals is mainly on just like keeping the core together.
They've invested a lot of picks the last few years into the defense, and they haven't developed. Maybe that's Lou Anarumo a little bit. They just signed Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, our former defensive coordinator, who is really good, and hopefully he can help develop some of these players. Mainly, their additions are going to come. How can the defense improve through the draft and just players development, and just maybe being in a better scheme? I mean, we'll see. The offense, we'll see what they do with T. Higgins. I'm not worried with the offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. It's going to be productive. And we'll see.
And Chase Brown coming to his own too.
Yeah, Chase Brown was good. If you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins there and Joe Burrow, it's going to be a good offense. It's really it would take a act of God to make that a bad offense if those guys are healthy.
Yeah, so, that's key word.
If they're healthy, and they were last year. Yeah. So, now I'm up with the Packers, who are one of the weirdest teams when it comes to offseason. They spent last year, so like now I'm thinking, okay, they actually could spend again because they have $48.8 million. And their key losses are Josh Myers, starting offensive lineman for them. Eric Stokes was a corner they drafted a couple years ago. He's been AJ Dillon, they're not going to re-sign. He's only good. And then Christian Watson, who's hurt.
Also, don't forget about Jair Alexander.
He's not a free agent then.
No, but they're like going.
I was going to mention him, but he's going to get. Yeah, Jair Alexander will probably not be on this team next year. He has a huge cap. He hasn't played over 300 snaps in like 2 years.
Yeah,
and he's got a lot of off the field stuff. So I also don't think Jair is going to be there. But their needs, I put number one corner.
Yes,
or not number one corner, number one wide receiver. I'll get the corners. But like number one wide receiver, they have good wide receivers. They don't have a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I put corner just in general, like the whole room. Like they need a number one, they need a number two. And then I put edge, like pass rushing edge.
Mm-hmm.
They have good run stuffing edge. Lucas Van Ness has not been very good. And Smith is not Smith. Rashawn Gary has been solid. He fell a lot last year as a pass rusher. They have a good defensive line, especially against the run, but they could not get after the passer, especially on the edge. So with edge rushers, I put, will it be Hassan Reddick or Khalil Mack?
I had Khalil Mack too.
He's already played in this division, but he's also good against the run. He's a vet. Maybe he can help teach up Van Ness a little bit. He's still productive as a pass rusher. Hassan Reddick is a pass rush specialist, and if you wanted to just bring him in on pass rushing downs and say, Van Ness, you play the run stuffing ones. Reddick, I know he had a bad year last year. He held out. I think he's still a very good edge rusher, especially when it comes against as just a pure pass rusher. And he's the kind of player they need just to get some pass rush because they played the Eagles tough. They just could not get after Jalen Hurts. No. And like they have good linebackers now. Their safeties are good. It's just I think they really need a number one edge rusher to make this defense go, along with corner. So not a great cornerback class for if you want a number one guy. I put Byron Murphy. He was good for the Vikings last year, and if they don't re-sign him, they could get him. Asante Samuel's another guy who's not a number one, but he's a solid enough corner who I feel kind of good in. Maybe Carlton Davis if he leaves.
That's what I have.
But I don't think he's going to leave Detroit. And also,
lateral move.
Yeah, and then for wide receiver, I put Chris Godwin.
I like that.
I didn't put T. Higgins because he got tagged, and I'm not going to predict him to get traded to the Packers. That's just not. I don't think they're going to do a tag and trade, and maybe they prove me wrong. But Chris Godwin, I think he might be a little discounted coming off the ACL tear, but he is a number one wide receiver, and he would be very good on this team. I know he could be a little repetitive, kind of what they have, but He's just a guy who's going to get open, and it would still allow them to. I think they want to be a run first offense, and Josh Jacobs was awesome last year, and he would allow them to do that. He's a good run blocker. So those are kind of the guys I have. We'll see what the Packers do. They spent last year, but historically they're not the hugest spending team in the world. But
who did you have them replacing Josh Myers with? Because Josh Myers was their starting center.
I think they're just going to re-sign him.
You should think you should resign him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. And also, if they don't re-sign him,
if they
don't re-sign him, I think they'll go through the draft.
Okay. I was thinking that too. I was thinking either draft or someone like.
I know
Ryan
offensive
Kelly.
line is could be a need for the Packers, but they draft and develop really well, and they drafted Patrick Paul last year. I think.
No, not Patrick Paul.
No, they drafted
Arizona.
Oh yeah.
Wow, we are not good on names right now.
No.
I just think of Arizona.
They drafted him first round.
Yeah. Jordan Morgan. There
yeah.
we go.
Position. I was really high on Jordan Morgan.
Yes.
Position versatile. Inside, obviously not going to play Josh Myers' position, but that's a guy they drafted last year. I could see them drafting a Gray Zabel, to be that center or position guy. He kind of
because they're not going to draft a wide receiver in the first round.
They love position versatile guys on the offensive line. That is, if there is a position versatile offensive lineman available in the mid to late 20s, book it that the Packers are going to take a look at it, or they're going to draft him in the second round. That they love those position versatile guys. And they draft them pretty well. I mean, they've historically been a good offensive line, and last year was a little tail off.
Walker is a 7th round pick, and he's starting at left tackle for them, doing really well.
Yeah, so I think they'll just draft offensive line, but that's what I have for the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are really good. Like I said, I like the Khalil Mack. I mean, he's like a 1-year kind of merchant, or you do multiple year. Because you still have a really young secondary with Evan Williams is coming to his own. I mean, Xavier McKinney's not that old. He's still young. Like what you said, there are pieces on their defense that can take them,
Edger and Cooper was a stud last year.
Dominant. So I agree. I think I would see them
number 1 linebacker.
Yeah, I would see them going cornerback for sure in free agency.
Yeah, or they could also go in the draft to free agency. What happens? Maybe they get the guy out of Notre Dame who's been hurt,
Benjamin Morrison. That's
if his medicals check out. But now you're up with the Browns.
So obviously the Browns are in a little bit of cap hell. So
a little bit.
They're negative 22 mil right now. Negative 22.8. So there's not much they can do. But there's some moving around that I've done in order for them to accrue more picks and also to have the wishes done to Myles Garrett. So obviously, if they try to trade Myles Garrett, that's negative 17 million in 2025, but plus 20 million in 2026 and plus 40 million in 2027. So that's going to make a little bit of a deficit. If they trade Greg Newsome, which there's been some rumblings about that. Greg Newsome coming into his last year, that frees up about 13.5 million. And then if you restructure Deshaun Watson's contract,
sorry, I'm over the camera right now, and I'm seeing what would happen if they cut Deshaun Watson right now. It's $100 million.
Yes.
Holy crap,
no. Go ahead and do it. There we go. Yeah, cut him right now. It turns to 122.
But that moves them from 9 million next year to 82. Maybe they eat it.
No, they can't. They can't. So this way, basically, Deshaun Watson is this little cancer that's just been spreading, and now you just kind of have to almost just deal with it at this point in time because you can't cut it out. It's almost a part of you right now. You brought it upon yourself, but with all that movement of being able to potentially getting 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, for getting what you can from Greg Newsome, which is probably a 2nd-round pick from Greg Newsome.
Yeah, Denzel Ward would look at trading too.
Potentially too. But with those moves and restructuring Deshaun Watson, the cap would only be 9.8 million. So,
and no one's going to want to go to the Browns.
No one's going to want to go to the Browns unless you're like a Kirk Cousins, which initially I said that. Initially I said Kirk Cousins, sure, like he's going to be, if he gets cut, he's going to be paid. Same as the thing with like Russell Wilson in that scenario. He's going to Kevin Stefanski, which is kind of like a similar ordeal like that he's been used to with like as far as like the offense. But then I was like, they could just draft Cam Ward. And yes, like, I know it's not the best scenario, but at the end of the day, I don't really know what the Browns' future is because I think Kevin Stefanski has shown, that he's a good coach overall, but I don't know how long the leash he's going to have. I don't know with the huge contract that Deshaun Watson has, how many people you can continue to get. So if you go with a rookie contract and you hope and pray that Cam Ward is a guy, which I think out of all the quarterbacks, a little bit sneak peek, but I think Cam Ward is my QB1. He is on the very low tier 1 for me. Like, I think he should be closer to pick 15, 16, but I'm okay with him going to Kevin Stefanski because I think he's a good offensive mind. So hopefully being able to try to fix some of his problems. But at the end of the day, if you're able to trade Myles Garrett, you're able to trade Greg Newsome, you're starting fresh anyways. Hopefully you're able to hit on the first round picks. That is like your only hope is that you have a 2018 Saints, you have a 2017 Saints, 2018 Colts kind of fluky, like every single pick works out for you. And that's the only way you could almost just break even at this point.
Yeah.
Because of this contract you've given to Deshaun Watson. It's really a crappy situation. I feel bad for some Browns fans because some Browns fans, you know what you did. But it's almost as bad as the Saints, but at least the Saints have at least a little bit more of just like, well, it's just that we're old. That's all it is.
The Browns kind of just need to trade as many people as they can, get value, eat cap space, eat this next year. I know like going to another rebuild as the Browns is not enticing, but you screwed yourself with the Deshaun Watson contract and like you hadn't had the picks to really backfill the rest of the roster that's been aging and losing players. The offensive line is plummeted.
It's getting older. Like
you have players that have value that you could trade. Maybe you could trade a Wyatt Teller. But like you've got good players on the defense that are aging and you can get like a second round pick for Denzel Ward. You can get a second round pick for Greg Newsome. You can get multiple firsts for Myles Garrett.
That's what I'm saying.
You could probably get like a day 2 pick for Wyatt Teller. I know they're going to say they're going to let Nick Chubb walk. I mean, maybe even trade Grant Delpit. Jeremiah Seward.
Well, no, they just paid him. I don't think.
I know, but like I don't know.
If I were them, I would definitely keep him.
But it's just do everything. Just like get rid of most of your players. Get so many picks.
So you're saying fire sale?
Yeah, I would. I mean, like you're not. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be good next year.
It's just that I know,
and like Kevin Stefanski, like I give him the leash through the rebuild. Like he's a good coach and.
So you say like a 2-year almost like
you have like a 2-year rebuild where like you would have like two firsts the next 2 years. You'd have like multiple seconds, multiple thirds, like multiple picks late round. After this year, you could have positive cap space. Like you could be if you trade all those players, you could be into the like 40, 50, $60 million in cap space next year potentially. I don't know. I just burn it all to the ground and just build it back up, pretty much.
That's Deshaun Watson still there because you can't get rid of him.
Yeah, but you can get rid of him in like 2 years. So that's the rebuild will be done in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm up with the Bears.
Who have a lot of cap space.
Yes. The Bears have $79.5 million in cap space. That's a lot. Yeah. They don't have, they're free agents. Keenan Allen, they're not going to re-sign. Tevin Jenkins, they are going to re-sign. And kind of a lot of players that aren't really noteworthy.
Yeah. What you're going to do? You're going to release Darryl Taylor and Jacob Martin.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Jacob Martin, Texans legend. For their needs, I put offensive line as a whole. I like Darnell Wright at right tackle. He had a solid year. But outside of that, I don't love. I mean, if you resign Tevin Jenkins, he's obviously going to be there. But the rest of the offensive line, get rid of him. I put running back as a need.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had I know Roshan Johnson was solid. I don't like DeAndre Swift. I know they just signed him. He's not gonna want that's not the player that
they got rid of him.
Yeah.
And the Lions.
Yeah, Ben Johnson literally got rid of him. So I don't think he's gonna be getting a lot of play time. And then defensive line, as just a whole, edge rusher outside of Montez Sweat, who even had a down year last year, and just all over defensive line. So for offensive line, I put Ryan Kelly, Drew Dahlman, Kevin Zeitler, James Daniels. They could get 2 of those guys. I think Drew Dahlman, you could get him. I think is a solid. I mean, he's a very good center. Ryan Kelly, I know, is a little older, but still, I think Ben Johnson wants to have a good center. I mean, he's had a good center with Ragnow.
Plus a veteran center with
a veteran center with your young quarterback. Zeitler's older, I know, but he has the Ben Johnson connection. He was good for them last year. You've got James Daniels is the type of run grading guard that he kind of would want to be able to establish that run game. And he's just an upgraded guard, truthfully. Even if they re-sign Tevin Jenkins, getting a combo of Ryan Kelly and then James Daniels and then drafting a tackle at pick 10. Yeah. You could get
Kevin Banks.
Yeah, you can get a Kevin Banks to play left tackle. Maybe you could trade up a little bit for Will Campbell.
But they could take Will Johnson.
I mean, they could. Okay. And then running back, I put Najee Harris and Raheem Mostert.
I do like the Raheem Mostert.
Najee Harris, I know, is not great. It would be a short-term deal, but he's kind of that power back type guy. He's a solid receiver. If you wanted him to be that number 2 back, I think he's better than DeAndre Swift, truthfully. Yeah. And then Raheem Mostert, because I think they're going to draft a running back, but Raheem Mostert, because he's still got that speed. I know he's kind of older and he's hurt, but he's still got that speed that he can kind of emulate what Gibbs did, not to the same degree, but he can get outside and bust one big, right? So I think that's a guy they could look at on a 1 to 2 year deal, minimal money, and he could give them some solid games and give them that speed element that they don't really have, and that Ben Johnson wants to have from his running backs. And then for the defensive line, I put Josh Sweat and Matt Judon.
I had Josh Sweat.
I think Josh
Sweat brothers.
If he goes anywhere, I think it's going to be the Bears. Yeah. You got Montez Sweat already. You'd have Josh Sweat, good pass rusher. I think their secondary is pretty good on this defense. They spent money at linebacker last year, but just Josh Sweat would be good. Matt Judon, I know he didn't have a good year last year, but he's a good vet. He was as good. He was as a defense player of the year candidate 2 years ago, and I know he got traded last year. Didn't have a great year. Just got released, but I think he's going to be a solid vet on the market.
What do you think about him going?
And also another one I didn't put, but I meant to, Khalil Mack.
I just thought about this. What do you think about Matthew Judon potentially going to the Lions? He's from Detroit, so it'll be a coming home thing.
It could happen too. I think that'd actually be a very good fit as a vet guy. But the Bears are going to spend big again in free agency. They're going to get guys that fit Ben Johnson's scheme. They're going to be a much improved team. They're going to be a hot team to be sneaky playoffs, which we'll see. I believe in Caleb Williams. I still think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback. They got good weapons. DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze, I think, he's going to be fine. Yeah. The scheme was awful last year with Shane Waldron. And then we'll actually have a good run game for him for Caleb Williams, actually know how to protect him. They're going to invest heavy in the offensive line. And I don't know. I'm excited for the Bears. I don't care about the Bears really either way. I don't have any beef with them, but I also don't love them. But I don't know. I'm excited for Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson pairing, and if they can improve that offensive line, I like the potential of this offense.
I would not be surprised if basically they did what the Panthers did last year, and that is you get Tevin Jenkins in this
overspend
case, overspend of just legitimately if Trey Smith had not gotten tagged.
I still think there's a chance he gets tagged and traded.
Yeah, because to me, Trey Smith was he wasn't a roommate, but he was a teammate of also the right tackle we just talked about. Darnell Wright. Like he was also a teammate of him. Him gonna get the big bucks. Like I had him like probably getting like closer to 25 mil.
Yeah,
like they're gonna pay. But I also had like them getting Austin Corbin was also a good one. I had them going 2-2 out well, like getting a speedster.
Yeah, I was going to mention they could use a third wide receiver because you've got the guy who's going to get yards after catch and DJ Moore. Romadunze is that big, like DeAndre Hopkins-esque receiver. He just goes up, high points the ball. He's going to be good in the red zone. He can give you some run after the catch, definitely, but he just throw the ball around him and he'll go and get it. And 2-2 out will be like a solid wide receiver 3, deep threat guy, stretch the field. Cole Kmet's a solid tight end.
Yeah.
So like he'd really be like your 4th or even 5th option if they drafted like a Caleb Johnson in round 2 or something. Like if he's there in round 2, that is.
One last one that I also like is the potential of Paulson Adebo going there because Dennis Allen is the defense coordinator now.
That's a good hire.
I think it's a good hire. So really, like I said, it's a good defensive mind. So you keep that what you had somewhat in Eberflus because sometimes his defenses were doing well. But having Paulson Adebo be technically your cornerback 2 with Jalen Johnson, and then if you're able to get like a Josh Sweat or whatnot, like that's trying to be like a really good defense.
A very above average defense where I think next year they could be, I'm not going to say a really good offense, but I think they could be a pretty solidly above average offense.
Yeah, it just depends on how Caleb Williams develops. So like I think both North divisions as always are going to be very
the NFC North was the best division of football probably last year.
Unfortunately, they couldn't win in the playoffs.
But they had 3 playoff teams. They had like 2 teams that were both fighting for the number 1 seed in week 18. Which you don't ever see. Like they were probably the best division in football last year, and in the AFC North kind of had that crown for the last few years. But I mean, I know the NFC East was pretty good 2 years ago, but
they were good last year too.
If the Cowboys hadn't been down,
and the Giants being the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants are always going to stink, but
that's going to turn it around.
That's all we have. We said West next week.
Yes, West next week, and then we're going to finish off with the East because they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I hate the Eagles. But that's kind of all we have for you this week. We'll see y'all next week with the West predictions and anything else you got to add, Ryan?
No, I'm actually excited for the West now that the whole Stafford situation is gonna go.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get some clarity on some stuff with the Chiefs too.
Yeah.
So, but thank you all for watching and see you on the next one. Bye.